This is David Weiss, your board game concierge here at 401 Games, and we're continuing our look at holiday stocking stuffers and good holiday gifts, continuing our series with this week's Smorgasboard floor plan. It's a roll and write home design game designed by new designer Marek Tupi. I don't know about Binu, but and it is published by Deepwater Games. So let's take a look inside the box and see if Floor Plan is the game for you. In Floor Plan, you and up to 99 other people are designing homes for some very demanding clients. That's right, I said 99 people because the box literally says you can play with up to 100 people. In fact, you could play with up to infinity people, like other roll and writes like Legacy or flip and writes like Welcome To, because everyone's working from the same information and no one interferes with anyone else's choices. So each player gets a blank sheet with where their layout's going to go and reminders about what the placement rules are and scoring. And you'll have to scrounge around for pencils because the box doesn't have any. There's 2 dice, and then there are these client cards. There's 3 types, really arbitrarily named build, design, and layout. And so you end up shuffling them and choosing one of each. So these give you your goals, your demands, and or your bonuses. So you might end up with these 3 clients. I'm gonna put this guy up here. You won't be able to see all of it necessarily, but let's see if I can adjust this a little bit. And each one has to do with furnishings and rooms and which rooms go where and what's in them. So to start the game, you set one of the dice on 6 because everyone is going to place a living room to start the game off, and then you roll the other dice, and that gives you the dimensions of your starting living room. That living room has to cover that square on the grid, so you kind of want to take a look at the various goals. I'm not going to think too hard here because I don't want to waste time, but I need a 6x4 living room. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 4. And as long as the shaded square is somewhere inside, that's okay. And then you have to label it with an L. And the box that you put the letter in does count. So like you can't put anything else in that square. So sometimes you do have to think about where you put it. The fact is, one of the goals is having a living room with windows or doors into 5 or more other rooms. So hopefully we'll get some other rooms here. So from then on, every round is the same. Someone, it could be the same person or a different person each round, rolls the 2 dice. So in this case, a 4 or a 2, 4 and a 2, and everyone makes a choice. Each person, independently of the others, is going to either draw 1 room and label it, or draw 2 sets of furnishings. And then you'll put them on your plan. So if you draw a room, one of the numbers, the type of room you get to add, depends on at least one of the 2 numbers on the dice. So with a 2-4, I'm either adding a washroom or I'm adding a kitchen. And then the 2 numbers together provide me with the dimensions of the room, length and width. So between washroom and kitchen, if I were going to do that, let's see, doesn't really matter in terms of the goals. So, but I want my living room to be adjacent to 5 or more other rooms. So let's put in a little washroom here by the living room, 2x4. And then again, I have to put a W somewhere in here, and thinking about furnishings, arrangements of furnishings, they need to be contiguous to each other, so I'll just stick the W in the corner there. Okay, so that was my choice for this turn, was to draw a room. So on the next round, that was also a 4 and a 2. So this time, no, I don't want doubles. So let's say we roll a 3 and a 6, and I want to do furnishings this time. Well, that means if I choose furnishings, in this case, I would place 3 windows and 6 stones. And windows must go inside rooms, and I want windows or doors into other rooms, so I can put 1 window there, and I can actually start planning ahead to where my other rooms are going to be. So I'll put 1 there, and 1 there. And for stones, now stones, I want 2 adjacent pools or a dining room and a bedroom looking out onto a pool. So pools are formed by stones. So I'm going to start a pool here. Oh, that's not a good idea because I want that window to look out onto a room. This is where the planning happens here. So I will put it here. 1, 2, 3. And for my twin fountains, they have to be 2 or more water each. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So with the idea that I'll finish this on a later turn, and then I'll be able to put water in there. So if you roll a 1, you get to place a tree which takes up a 3 by 3 space. If you roll a 2, you get to place 2 doors. 3 is windows, 4 is furnishings, 5 are deck sections, which for the purposes of our scoring would be important for the shaded porch, where we want a tree surrounded by a deck. And finally, the 6 stones, as I said. Then, at the end of every round, you would check to see whether you had fulfilled a demand. So, obviously, you want to keep your eye on those demands, and that's where your points are going to come from. Now, you start the game with 1 free bonus, which would let you, let's say I didn't like either of these numbers, I could change 1 to a different number, and then I would check this off and use it up. That makes your life easier. But each time you satisfy a client goal, so let's say later on in the game, I managed to finish 1 pool. So I've placed some more stones, and that lets me create a pool. And then, so later on in the game, let's say here I am, and I have finished the 2nd pool, and so I have now satisfied the twin fountains, 2 adjacent pools with 2 or more water squares each. So I can now choose, so I'm going to score 5 points. I can choose one of these squares, these post-it notes really, to write it in and earn the right to another bonus. So that bonus could be another free change of number thing. I don't have to use it right away. I can use it later in the game. Same with all of the bonuses. Here, it lets me do a double feature, as it were. I can do the same feature twice. This lets me do a room twice. This lets me add 2 doors. So let's say in this case, I wanted later on to add, if I take a look here, actually a double feature could be very useful. To get some of these hard ones. So I'm going to put my 5 there. I can actually score that demand again later on if I want. And that will get me, later on when I use this, I check it off. So the end of the game is triggered, though, when one player manages to fill all their post-it notes, and that player scores 3 points here for finishing the game. And everyone else gets 1 more roll of the dice and opportunity to add things. You then add up the points you get for all your demands, plus the decorator bonus. So in this case, 1 point for each room with 1 or more furnishing and a door to the outside, which in this case it would be 0, but presumably I would have more things later. You add your final decorator bonus in there, and whoever has the highest score wins. So, is Floor Plan the game for you? Well, it's a very spatial reasoning type game that requires a fair bit of planning and forethought if you're going to score well. and it's multiplayer solitaire. There's no player interaction, so you and your group have to like those kind of games. It kind of bugged me that it didn't include any writing implements. On the other hand, if that helped keep the price down, I guess we all have pencils lying around. And also, you know, if you laminate some sheets, you can just use dry erase markers, and then you don't have to use up paper every time you play, save a few trees. That's a good thing. The rules have some intentional holes which are very interesting. You can end up with a house that's got no windows or doors, or no way from getting from room to room. Or you could have a house stuffed with furniture with no way to get around. Apparently, the original rules had certain requirements that you needed, such as doors and windows and so on, but 2P found that players ended up with very similar looking layouts that way, so he decided to drop those requirements, which result in some pretty amusing houses when you finish, which is part of the fun, and it does mean that every player's house looks quite different, and you do end up with a neat floor plan when you finish. Now, on the other hand, the rules do have some unintentional holes and ambiguities, which you should check out on BGG to clarify around the scoring mainly of the various goals and demands. Nothing major, and you know, your group can probably house rule those on the fly, but the rules could have done with a good going over, as many games could these days. What's great about this game to me is that it's light, it's portable, it's easy to play, it's easy to teach. It plays in about 20 minutes, so you can play 2 or 3 rounds in an hour once people get going, and you can play with as many people as you like, which is perfect for like a holiday game if you're sitting around together with family and friends, appropriately bubbled or socially distanced. In fact, it's quite easy to play over Zoom or other things if people have copies of the layout sheets. So, click on the link below to order your copy of Floor Plan. This is David Weiss, your board game concierge here at 401 Games. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Ciao.